Hello and welcome to Immediate Immersion Live. How's everybody doing today? Raise your hand if your students have ever zoned out mid-story because it wasn't about them, didn't involve a celebrity scandal, or lacked a single mention of tacos. Yeah, I've been there. But what if I told you that nonfiction, yes, nonfiction, can actually be your secret weapon in the CI classroom? Stay with me. It's not boring textbooks and dry facts anymore. We're talking weird animal trivia, real life drama, and student generated TED Talks. Welcome to the revolution, friends. Let's make nonfiction like the Beyonce of your lesson plans. We'll be right back after this short intro. And we're back. I don't know about you. This is my last week of school. I've only got a couple more days left. We did our first finals today, got finals tomorrow, and babysitting day on Thursday, and then I'm out for the summer. Many of you I know are already out for the summer, and I'm so jealous. Let me know what your plans are for this summer. If you're watching this on the live, go ahead and put this in the chat. And if you're watching this on the replay, go ahead and put it in the comments. I want to know what your plans are. So let's go ahead and get started. So, why nonfiction is a game changer in comprehensible input? It's a game changer because it sets them on their heads a little bit. It's a little bit different from what they're expecting, and it allows them to look at text in a completely different way. And our first strategy would be starting with high interest, low density texts. So here you're going to choose materials like biographies, cultural topics, or interesting facts with accessible language. And here's where ChatGPT can be your greatest teacher assistant. I love ChatGPT for what it can do. So I can take an article or a biography or any type of cultural topic that I want, and I can put it in ChatGPT and ask it to simplify it, to take the sentences and make them more simple, or the vocabulary and simplify it so that I can make it accessible for each of my different levels. You can also ask it to create different versions of that. So you can either scale it back to scaffold it down to your level 1, or if it's really basic to start with, to scaffold it up to a higher level. So you can kind of make those embedded readings that have been made famous by Laurie Clark and Michelle Whaley. So you can ask it to do that. So you can start with a complex version and you can say, ChatGPT, I need you to make a very simple, just cut to the chase version of this, and then 2 more versions in between to get us back to the full version. And what's great about ChatGPT, it's not a one and done type of thing. If you don't like what it gives you, talk to it, just if it were a human being that you can talk to and have it make adjustments along the way so that you can get the exact output that you want. It's not just tell it to do it, you get a result, and you're like, I don't like it, I'm going to throw it away. No. Excuse me, sorry, still recovering from a cold. But you can use it to get exactly what you want by tweaking it. I tell you, it's the best teaching assistant there is. Second strategy, layering comprehensible input techniques. So use that circling technique, scaffolding, and visuals to make abstract nonfiction ideas digestible. So we use all of our skills. We want to make sure that we're using all the different techniques that we have and applying to all the different learning styles that kids have to make our content full circle, full 3D. So we're using circling, We're scaffolding, we're using visuals, videos, images to make whatever we're talking about, the nonfiction, really come alive. And that really helps when you're doing that to make it comprehensible using those circling techniques, asking your yes, no, either or, who, what, where, when, how, and why questions, scaffolding from simple sentences to compound sentences to complex sentences to compound complex sentences, starting with simple sentences that lack detail, moving up to more detailed sentences, and then using visuals, using emojis, using clip art, using realia images, or using realia at all if you have it to help make that connection. And the third idea is to tie nonfiction to student interests. So poll your students on topics they care about: science, history, current events, music, sports. Find out what's engaging to them, what they're interested in, and use that to find nonfiction ideas that you can bring into the classroom. Music is a great topic for students. They love talking about their music and expressing their music and listening to their music. So bring that into the classroom. You can compare their style of music to a similar style in the target language or the target culture. You can talk about their favorite artists in there. Books are another thing. You think kids don't like to read because of the way that we make them read in English class. But kids like to read, but they like to read what they want to read. So talk about their favorite authors, their favorite topics, their favorite books. Bring in movies, TV shows, Netflix, all those types of things to bring in things that kids are really, truly engaged in to bring into the actual classroom through nonfiction. But because it's about what they want to talk about, the topics they're interested in, they're going to be wholly engaged. And if I could find the right button I want to look for, there we go. So next, what we really have to focus on is making nonfiction comprehensible. What's great about nonfiction is that generally, because it doesn't have any flowery language, generally, it tends to be a little bit more comprehensible than literature would be. Because literature, we've got, metaphors and similes and flowery language, and they're trying to evoke images, where nonfiction is right and it's being, it's really concrete and direct. So we want to work on making that comprehensible for all of our learners. So one great way to do that is preload vocabulary in context. So I'll go through whatever I want them to work with, and I'm going to introduce essential words through visuals, gestures, dialogues, short fictional stories first, so that they're very familiar with that working vocabulary. Especially if we're bringing in different content from different, genres. Let's say if we're talking about music, or we're talking about sports, or we're talking about animals, they have their set of vocabulary that may not be vocabulary that students are already familiar with in the target language. So we want to pump them up with that. We want to make sure that we set them up for success by preloading and pre-teaching that vocabulary, but doing it in context, not out of context. Don't give them a list to memorize. Use like a key bank, and then use visuals and gestures and short dialogues and other fictional stories. Maybe you can make a story using those so they're all familiar with the vocabulary before we attack the actual nonfiction piece. You can use embedded reading that we already talked about. So start with a super simple version, then gradually increase the complexity to deepen the comprehension. So Again, this is what I really love ChatGPT for, because it can be difficult, or you can get yourself into a rut if you're always creating your own um, embedded readings. They get very predictable. So I will give, I'll either start at one end or the other. So if it's something that I've written about, some nonfiction piece, I'll write a very simple version of it, and then I will ask my ChatGPT to take that very basic and give me 2 or 3 more versions that are each more complex than the other. Or I can do the reverse and start with the complex version and ask it to go back. I always give the levels when I'm talking about this. It seems to do better with the European framework levels than with the ACTFL levels. So I will use A1, A2 for beginners, B1, B2 for intermediates, and C1 and C2 for your advanced. So I'll use that to tell them. And if I don't like a version, it's too difficult, I'll say, I don't like this one. Please simplify it. Or this one's too close to the one before it or the one after it. Can you make some changes? Let ChatGPT know exactly what you want, and it will create it for you. And then you can make the adjustments. And then I always go through, I'll always read through it, and then I'll make my own changes to it to keep it personalized, to keep it interesting, and maybe to use swap this word for that word because I prefer to use that word in class because it's more comprehensible. Lots of times I know ChatGPT will stick with feliz for happy when I want to use contento because it's a cognate and it's easier for my level ones to understand right off the bat. And next, let's talk about graphic organizers. If you walk into any English class, even social studies, history, they do a lot of graphic organizers. So why not in our classes as well? So we can have mind maps, timelines, Venn diagrams, all of these types of things, depending on the nonfiction content we're trying to make comprehensible. We can give these to students or have students make them. You can do a Google search and look for different types of graphic organizers. You can even take, when you have your nonfiction piece, put it in ChatGPT and ask it first, give me 3 or 4 types of graphic organizers that would do this with the content. Let's say focusing on making it more comprehensible, or making it more not understandable, making it more simplified, the process simplifying, or whatever your goal is with that piece. Ask ChatGPT, give me 3 or 4 or 5 different ideas for graphic organizers that will accomplish that goal. And then you can either go to Google and search and see if you can find those, or sometimes, not always, but I can ask ChatGPT to create those graphic organizers. And if they're good enough, I can print them out as is, make copies and use them, or it'll give me a good enough idea where I can go into Canva and create them from there. And if you don't know about Canva, it's a great resource and it's free to teachers. You can get the full version free using your school email address. And it's an excellent graphic software to make all kinds of graphics, images, storyboards, graphic organizers. Also, you can even search inside. There may be a graphic organizer already created in Canva that you can use or tweak from there. So use those resources. It really, really helps, because when you have a graphic organizer, it allows kids to visualize the information, to process that information visually. They can see it either in the process, the step by step by step, or they can visualize how it looks so they can understand it better. Graphic organizers are just an excellent way to do this. And you know, we've used them in literature as well. We use them in our stories. So why not for nonfiction as well? I'll tell you, whenever I tell my students the following phrase that, you know, all dogs are animals, but not all animals are dogs, or all pizza is food, but not all food is pizza, my kids get confused. But when you create that Venn diagram, that graphic organizer that explains that, then they can visualize that and it makes it just a little bit more understandable. Now, before we jump back in, if you're loving these ideas and you want a whole summer's worth of inspiration, don't miss our CI summer camp. We're getting started in just a short week. It's the ultimate virtual hangout for language teachers who are tired of grammar drills and are ready to teach with joy, input, and a tiny bit of chaos. We're talking about actionable strategies, ready to use resources, and a community that actually gets you. No tents, no bug spray, just CI magic. Get all the details at mm.us/summercamp. See you at camp. Now let's talk about point number 3, using nonfiction for real-world proficiency growth. Isn't that what we're trying to do? We're trying to get our students to acquire language so that their proficiency level grows throughout the year, and hopefully from year to year to year, because they're in our program for multiple years. First, you want to create a discussion-based assessments. So have students discuss and summarize key points instead of doing comprehension quizzes. So kids have a real difficult time summarizing. That's not a skill they learn very well. They can't do it in their own language, and they're going to have difficulty in their second or third language as well. So, sorry, excuse me. So you'll want to practice this before you actually do it as an assessment. So take pieces of nonfiction, show them how to pull out key points, put those key points in their own words so that they've got a summary. Now, because I'm checking for comprehension here, and I don't want them to regurgitate what they've already seen in the target language, because just because they can rewrite the sentences doesn't mean they can understand what they wrote. I have them do this in their native language, so the common language of the class. So here in the United States, it's English. But depending on where you're teaching, it might be a different language. You might be teaching Spanish, but you might be teaching in France. So then French would be the language, because you want to be able to demonstrate that comprehension level. But do this a few times before you actually ask them to do this assessment. So not only do they know how to do it, but it also they can see what it is to summarize, because usually summarize for them is just to recopy key sentences. And you might start with that. You might go and read through this article that we're doing. Go ahead and highlight 5 key sentences to start with in the target language. And then you might have them write those key sentences out and then translate those key sentences. And that could be step 1 in how to do this. And then you can do another one where you do the same activity, but now you're going to take the English sentences, the translations, and to put them in their own words. And then you might do it a third time, and this time have them do step 1, where they copy it down straight from and they do the translation. Have them do an intermediate step where they take the key points that they wrote in the target language and rewrite those in their own words in the target language. And then finally write the English translations of those sentences. So there's different ways to do it, but you see the point, and you're practicing it before you're asking them to do it on an assessment. But now when they're assessment, you're looking at, do they have the key ideas? Are they emphasizing the big ideas, or do they write every single idea down? Are they doing it in their own words, or are they just translating the key sentences? You can see exactly through the reading of these how proficient your students are. Next, Pair nonfiction with authentic listening. So take the text that you're working with and find a related podcast, YouTube video, interview, news clip, whatever might be to just support it that goes together with it, so that you've pre-taught this vocabulary, so now their ears are primed to be able to listen to something related to it, and then have them do something tangible with that. So you might read a couple nonfiction articles or stories or whatever it might be about the topic, and then you might listen to 2 or 3 authentic listenings of that topic, and then you might have students put it together and synthesize something new, maybe an opinion piece about that, or a summary piece about that, or to write their own article based off that, their own nonfiction based off that. Or it could be just starting off by taking notes. So have them, note taking is a skill, and they may know how to do it, but usually poorly in their own language, but start teaching them how to take notes in the target language. Have them take notes for each nonfiction text that you have them do. Have them take notes for each authentic listening that you have do. Have them do that to start, so that you can get them primed to listening and picking out key details from each before you might have them synthesize something new from those. This is a classic AP type assessment where you listen to something or you read something, and then you've got to synthesize something brand new between the two. And our final strategy is encouraging student-generated content. So have students write their own nonfiction summaries or create mini TED-style presentations, so they can actually apply what they've learned by practicing these types of texts. Kids can learn how to present in the target language using some key slides, and not putting tons of text on the slide to read from, but just using the slides as their notes to trigger what they want to talk about. Or you can have them write an article or write summaries, ways to do that, or talk about their summaries so you can get speaking and writing. The idea is to have them create something that's not only comprehensible, but also demonstrates their proficiency level with the topic being discussed. And so it's a really great way for like a final project to do, using output to be evidence of what they understood throughout the lesson that you did on music or on animals that are native to that particular area, or some cultural event that you're talking about. So you've got all kinds of things. One of the really fun things I like to have my students do in this way to make it a little bit more lively is to come up with like a news, what do we call this? Like a news clip that they do, like a little news spot, like with an anchor, and they sit behind a table, and then we can film them, and they create some kind of, news presentation. It's a really fun thing for them to do. Or you could do it the TED style where they've got the slides, or just a talk. They could do it that way, but it gives it a little bit more fun, a little bit more spin to it, and they really enjoy what they're doing. So, all right, amigos, that's a wrap. Hopefully you're taking away with some fresh, practical ways to make nonfiction your new CI bestie. And remember, it doesn't have to be dry, dense, or deadly. When you layer in student interests, smart scaffolding, and a little strategy, nonfiction becomes a powerhouse. If today fired you up, come hang out with us at CI Summer Camp. We're keeping the good ideas and the good vibes going all summer long. Thanks for tuning in. Go out there and make input irresistible. If you enjoyed this, you learned anything, please share it with your friends and other teachers, so that we can get more people to see our videos. And I wish everybody to have a great wonderful summer break, and I'll talk to you next week. Bye-bye.